Good evening. I believe we might be live. A little bit of luck. We should be this Sunday, the 13th of February. Let me just share this link to the usual places and we shall begin. Okay, I'm sorry for the delay. I'll let you all get comfortable, get ensconced, and the show shall begin. I have invited the admins. We will see what tonight brings us. I hope you're all well. Let me just put this into the domains I need to put it into. On the camera. We'll see what we can accomplish tonight. There we go. So a couple more places. And I shall be with you. I've just got to put it on some other comments. Because people were told there was a show last night due to the delay and me falling asleep again. It did not happen. Things seem to be going very, very slowly. Patience is a virtue, initiates. Patience is a virtue. There we go. Let me just check. Let me know how you are, what you're doing. I don't mean to offend anybody with the title. It's just a play on words. I've got a little speech to bring you. I've invited the admins to join us from 9:30, 9:30. G-Man, I am fingers, niceness. You're giving me a spanner. Yes, I have indeed. Equality is equity. Equity is equality. Equality is paramount. We're all equals. Use that spanner well. Mike and the mechanics. Right, so that's everywhere it needs to be. Let me turn that down. Let me see if I can remember what I'm doing. It's been a while. Let's get the camera on. Ciao. Bosh. I hope all is good. I'm on a big comfy sofa. The clock, yes. Before you ask, Stephen, the clock will be making an appearance, but not tonight. Tiny eyes. I've been in the warehouse for 12 hours. I was up at 5 a.m. It's now 9 p.m. I've done a full shift in the region of about 450 pallet moves. So bear with me. All right. We're going to promote Ganster's and Sweden's new domain that's up and running. It's live, tnem.org. Before I accept admins' possible entry, Gander's making an appearance. I'm going to build you up with a little speech. All right. So if you're live, please bear with me. Be with me now. If you're on the replay, pause it. Get comfortable. Let me read on. So what do I mean when I've given the title of tonight's live show? You're all accused of being in league with the devil. Let's play a little sample from an old tune from back in the day. What do you think to this? Hooray. If you can name the year and the artist and the track title, well done. And the record label, fantastic. Here's the intro.
The world is a beautiful place, sheltered by a shroud of honor and integrity.
Like a Halloween
But there
special.
are those amongst us who unlock the doors to a further dimension and let loose the forces of evil.
There we go. Copyright infringement done for. It's actually from a channel on Tube that's had it there for a while. It's from an album called The Chaos Theory, number 1 of 4, I believe, for those ravers in the house. Old school floaty like quavers. Let me just check the audio. Now I've got that little sample out the way. And I shall read you my speech. It's had it there for a while. Yeah. From an album called The Chaos Theory. Bit of a delay, standard. So welcome to the ones in the house, to the 10 that are watching. The devil is in the details, good and evil. We all contain elements of both. The demiurge itself would contain elements of both good and evil. Demonization, demons themselves, demons in the Bible, devils, angels, good, bad, conscionable behavior. You get where I'm coming from. So this isn't just for Bible references. This is in life, behavior, deeds, how we treat one another, how we view one another, privately foremost in our communities, then going into the commercial realm, we're fighting one another for various opportunities in life, how we view our, abilities, how we view chances and what we will do to obtain them chances. So no offense is meant. And hopefully as I read these 5 pages, 1,900 odd words, then you will begin to see what I'm going on with. So let's begin. The self-good governing men, aka the princesses and princes of the kingdom of heaven, do hereby lay ancestral claim to the landmass known as Brighton, Britain. Our lands are no longer free for the Club of Rome to pass unhindered. If the Club of Rome is to pass, then a toll should be paid to the ones with ancestral claims of right within the sovereign Republic of New Britain, from my perspective. The tides are turning, as it was foretold and written by I, David Jason. I am commonly called David. I be the founder and governor of SPLS Pro. I'm the channel owner of this format, what you're looking at now, Indiglo. And also we have created a free, sovereign, peaceful army of souls. And we have a spiritual, intellectual movement. When I speak of army, comparable context of the well-known Jesus army, similar to that. Not all armies are weaponized and violent. We have no violent intent, nor any desire to cause harm, injury, loss, maim, terrorize, or kill. SPLS Pro is the international and official arm and voice for sovereigns, sovereigns around the realm. You can visit our homepage and check out our charitable foundation, educational private trust for yourselves. We are the ones responsible for lawfully striking back at our legal oppressors in London, Washington, and by extension of our works, the Vatican City. Our lawful strikes are retribution for generations of legal atrocities committed by the inner city London Templars against innocent beings. No longer will authentic flesh and blood beings be persecuted and subjected to the savagery and inhumanity that the inner city London Templars have been poisoning our species with. Any and all further legal attacks against authentic beings shall be precipitated by the inner city London Templars' failure to recognise our sovereignty within our Republic of New Britain, as we in 2022 enter the golden age and a new human reality. The peaceful, free sovereign army possess and have attained higher knowledge of true and natural, universal, cosmic consciousness and law. LORE. Any continued transgressions by the Templars, then the sovereign free army will not hesitate to unleash the full force of higher, true, natural and positive laws of, not limited to, but containing equity and trust technologies upon them. The trust doesn't just exist in a legal London city format. Trust exists in many formats, biblical formats, religious formats, ecclesiastical formats, legal formats. Okay, equity exists in many different formats: financial, spiritual, religious, commercial, non-commercial. I treat the trust and equity of London with contempt that it duly deserves, but I recognise it for the weapon that it is, as it is within common law. It's merged into common law as the 1873-1875 Adjudicature Acts show and evidence there. So within common law, our common law of England, the laws of England contain equity and trust, which is recognised and adjudicated and governed in the jurisdictions of inner city London High Courts. But there is more than one level, an area of equity and trusts. We recognise the right of the secret societies of Templars to exist, but their alleged sovereignty ends at their respective land borders. That being, for instance, the Vatican City, the inner city of London, and if you're across the ponds, we'll say Washington City. The landmass of Anglo-England belongs to authentic flesh and blood beings, aka authentic man. As we now begin with the mass separation and disenfranchising of persons and man, we are now at a crossroads within Homo sapiens human history. If you look up Homo sapiens, because I know a few of you have a problem with the word human and man, and you like to termify and use terminology not specific to human for various reasons, but HUE, man, human, Homo sapiens. If you look up Homo sapiens, one implied meaning and definition of that in Latin would translate to wise man in English. Already we are seeing how easy it would be to carry on legacies of exploitation, injustice, prejudice, and oppression into the future. But there is a better path under the protection of the free sovereign army and by lawful and spiritual correction of one's status, standing, and capacity. You would be looking at moving from a public legal person unto source energy as a private, lawful, authentic being or beings, humans, Homo sapiens. And remember, for there is no respect of persons with God. God, one abbreviation, translation could be grantor of dominion. Our private societies and culture of being shall begin again, and we shall remake humanity without the corruption, greed, and hatred that the inner city London Templars and various legal institutions could not transcend. We shall take what is ours by claim of right, birthright, but more than that, we shall lead authentic corporeal beings, aka man, to know a better form of themselves, a better version of themselves, a more humane form. Initiates of the realm, rise up now in joy and glorious, heavenly, God-sent resolve. The day is ours, tomorrow is ours, the future of humanity is indeed ours, today and forevermore. We are and have been and are now truly free. My fellow initiates, our fate as a species has been sorely tested. We have now been given an opportunity to choose a new future. Many have fought for us to get here, and many have died. We have lost souls that we loved and that have suffered. We would be justified to seek vengeance. Instead, we choose peace, for we have now arrived at the dawn of a new era, the golden age. And right now, in this present day, we are all witnesses to an event unlike anything else in the history of our species. Let that sink in. And, you know, that's why I said at the beginning to get comfortable, get ensconced, get a drink, and let this just flow through you. And I want your comments and I'd like your feedback with regards to this. Peace is a fragile thing. So I'm asking you to join me and to join hands with our peaceful sisters and brothers throughout the realm and dedicate ourselves to being one people, one conscience, with a shared purpose, as we have always done in the past. We shall face the unknown together. Initiates, war does not end when man lays down their guns. It ends only when the opposing sides reconcile. The Crown States, Inner City London Templars, and Authentic Man. Until then, the traditional war has only paused. We are seemingly in a soft war that uses silent camouflage weapons of mass destruction and distraction. Beings, man, are one consciousness, and our true loyalty is not only to our communities alone, but to our shared humanity. Many have died and been killed for following their conscience in defense of honor, integrity, and the greater truth that unites true Christians. CHRISGENS, Christians, the generation of true Christians. We shall not be judged by false Christians. The legal establishment has a monopoly on souls of courage and conscience, and so let us take a moment to reflect on the above. I can add there, the ecclesiastical and legal establishment has a monopoly on souls of courage and conscience. Our Genesis, Exodus, Trust of Truth that SPLSPro.com has expressed within our Christian disclosure shall provide a universal non-sectarian remedy for all. I want you to stay blessed, stay sovereign, sovereigns, and keep the faith. We have sacrificed too many years of our lives to adopt the tradition of our enemy. Initiates, I come before you in a moment of terrible tragedy, carrying, as we all do, the heartbreaking sorrow of the millions dead. We are also at a singular moment in our history and our consciousness. We have been confronted by the unknown in a way that is unprecedented, first in Rome, then in London, and now in Washington. The unmistakable existence of advanced foreign and alien legal institutions, aliens, illegal aliens, not on about the alien disclosure, what's going off there, but think of it, alien, alienable, alienable, unalienable. Yeah, so the unmistakable existence of advanced foreign and alien legal institutions, alien that is alien to us, our tribal ways, the herbalist ways, the true ways, the way, as the Mandalorians say, it is the way. So the unmistakable existence of advanced foreign and alien legal institutions whose mission and ungodly purpose we cannot seem to fathom. Legal be the undoing of God's law. We must not shy away from this or pretend otherwise. The one thing that we know for certain, the one thing that I can offer you is this. Humanity has faced the unprecedented before. We have discovered unimaginable wonders and terrors before, through our courage, vision, and faith, both through our purpose and in one another. We have seen our way through even the darkest nights. I'm here to tell you from my heart that we will do so again. The first step, that most necessary and fundamental beginning, is for humanity as a whole to recognize that we are one consciousness, one tribe, and one family. As Mickey Finn put it, one family. C.C. Rogers, all join hands. Arguments over faction and party must be set aside so that we can turn our attention to this most pressing mystery, and that I must tell you with the greatest sorrow is the truth that many have turned away from. Given a chance to transcend our history, London has instead insisted on what it calls independence, which is actually no more than a justification for legal wars and continued demands. Violence using the force of their society's secular codified unnatural manuscripted law, the force of law. Law should never be forced. They look upon this terrible and miraculous moment and they see it as an opportunity to revisit ancient grievances, to get one over on mankind, to score points, and so to unjustly enrich themselves. They have lost sight of our shared humanity, and so they must now be reminded of it. This is our duty, not as the government of man or of earth, but as the moral leaders of our species, to unify our factions, to now look definitively to end the divisions between our countries, our consciousnesses, to be what they have always been. One race, one human race of beings under one unified cause. And together we shall move forward unto this brave new chapter, sovereign, sovereign, fifth dimensional history. Note, you are all sovereign human beings. You just have to consider to uncontract all the small implied adhesion boilerplate contracts that you have seemingly joined it to, attached to, by affording a legal signature given with full liability. The signature is considered your consideration, your valuable consideration within this legal agreement, aka contracts. They're not contracts, strictly speaking, they're agreements, but they're termified as contracts. Signature, the act of putting one's name at the end of an instrument to attest its validity. You may want to consider looking at signature and various implied meanings, definitions of signature. One such would be Black's Law Dictionary, 6th edition. As nouns, the difference between signature and sigil, S-I-G-I-L, is that signature is a name written by that person used to signify approval of accompanying material, such as a legal contract, while sigil is a seal, signature, or signet. As an adjective, signature is distinctive, characteristic, indicative of identity. Sigil seemingly comes from the Latin word for seal, which is also the root of the word signature. Thinking of it in this way, a sigil is like a magical signature or seal that shows your authority in crafting your spells. The way we use sigils today comes from the chaos magic practice. Chaos magic, you say? Chaos magic is different from folk magic in that everything is specifically your own ideas and beliefs. There are no traditions passed down or common knowledge or references shared. Everything is your own. The important thing to remember about sigils is you need to create it in order for it to work, and it will only work for you. I see people sharing and using other practitioners' sigils online, but for this reason, it simply will not work. When you make sigils yourself, for yourself to use, it becomes your own personal kind of magic. We had the V for victory, used by Churchill. We had the swastika, taken by Adolf, used for his campaign. So there's evidences, many of them, too numerous to mention, but you can make your own. You can work this word magic, this wordplay. You can look at the law of attraction, the power of intent, and look at how to inwardly project, outwardly attract, and get in harmonious synchronization, syncretism, synchronicity with the universe. Look at the ancient cultures of the East and see what they've done. The Aztecs, Incas, Mayans, and other such, too many to mention again. The power behind sigils comes from creating the design, because it is infused with your intention, and it is something that only you will use. Certainty of intention. We look at the three certainties within trusts, objects, intentions, subject matter. So on this journey, this lawful journey, you will find that there are lots of loops back to and then paradoxical comparisons within different jurisdictions of wordplay and parameters of various laws, universal, cosmic, legal, ecclesiastical, just again, layered. Sigils are as unique as the practitioner. Some of this comes from Rudolf Steiner, some of this influence comes from Neville Goddard, some of this influence comes from, I can't remember his name now, but I'll get it in a minute. It comes from, I've got to show it you. I can't just get it now, I've got to show you 1 second. Ralph Waldo Emerson. These books are from the 1900. They're very, very ancient and old. They're original first editions. Volume 1, Volume 2. These are falling apart, complete with the spine inside. Volume 1, Ralph Waldo Emerson's works, Volume 1. Okay. George Routledge and Sons Limited, London, 1903. Nature Addresses Lectures. This is from America, Ralph Waldo Emerson. If you look at the works and the teachings and the writings of Ralph Waldo Emerson, I have these publications from first edition from the 1900s, and they are 122 years old. So we don't just skim, you know, the governor has got, I'm very proud of those. They're some of the oldest books man has ever had. So we continue on. Autograph, one's handwriting written with one's own hand. IBID, IBID, autonomously as the authority. And all of these powerful, strong words begin with alpha uniform, AU. AU within the periodic table of elements denotes gold. God with the letter L is gold, or EL, L. As for QE2 and monarchy, or monarch, monarch comes from, it seemingly can be traced back to the lunar cult, where the head potentiate would be called a moon's ark, that is bestowed sovereignty by the goddess of the moon. Chiron last. To close down my speech, we shall reference one of my favorite all-time minds. There are men. How shall I speak of them? Let us say they are ready eaters. They are fond of eating. Others are not so fond of eating. I do not want to say to gluttonous people and non-gluttonous people, for this would hardly be in place in a serious study. But I will say there are people who are fond of eating and there are others who are less fond of it. This too is connected in a certain sense with what the human being experiences in his passage between death and a new birth, before and after the midnight summit of existence. The middle point here is the midnight summit of existence. There are human beings who, as I will put it, ascend very high into the spiritual, and there are others who do not rise so high. Those who ascend very high will eat in order to live. Those who do not rise so high will live in order to eat. And that is taken from Rudolf Steiner, Karmic Relationships, Esoteric Studies, Volume 2, Lecture 8, from Dornach, 10th of May, 1924. Who? Rudolf Steiner, Rudolf Joseph Lorenz Steiner, was an Austrian philosopher, social reformer, architect, esotericist, and claimed clairvoyant. Steiner gained initial recognition at the end of the 19th century as a literary critic and published philosophical works, including The Philosophy of Freedom, Viva la Sovereign Republic of New Britain. I finish. and Anders has entered the chat room. So I'd like to know your thoughts. I'd just like to say to Jerry, Jesus, Sharon, Lisa, Mr. Dav, good evening. To be yourself in a world that is constantly trying to make you something else is the greatest accomplishment. R.W. Emerson, beautiful books. So there you go. There's another name dropped. Let's let Anders in. Good timing, Anders. Almost perfect. And he's connecting now, so bear with me. Did you enjoy that on the replay? I'd like to see your comments underneath, please. We will see if Anders is connecting. And then we're going to share Anders's and Sweden's new portal. Anders, are you there, my good brother?
Yes, I'm here. But I didn't hear what you was talking about. I was just coming in here, so you said you want to have my point on something.
No, we're going to promote tnem.org, and I would like you here so we could talk about it when I screen share and show the fam what go on. I've just kind of built up the mood for premiering on Indie, the site there, your new portal, and when I screen share, you could talk about your idea, the reasons for it, your wishes, what your mission is, if you like, or what Sweden's mission is, and the ones behind it. If that's all right, or I can just talk about it. It's entirely up to you.
Yeah, I actually would like if you make a presentation of what you know, and then I can come in and fill in if there is any questions about it, because I am mainly here to take care of SPLS Pro Sweden. So I am not so much into this faith society, or I haven't been reading up about everything there, but I know a little bit about it. So
okay, well, I'll screen share where we're going to go to and what we're going to look at. So if you just bear with me. That should already be on the screen now. So yes, thank you. Yes, so Sweden has picked up, and via Anders and the works that we've done together over the last couple of years, especially. What would we say? Information that is critical, crucial information, which can be valuable to all of us. It's not just limited to England. As we've said, there's various jurisdictions that we're all in, and we need to recognize that. So we're all private, we're all authentic, and it's just the separation that, as Albert said to me, disenfranchising the person from man is what we're good at. And we show you how these cults, these transcendental institutions of nonsense and magic and wordplay and lunar cults and demonic worship and so forth have enticed us into contracting with the devil, with the demons. The greatest trick that the devil could play. And I'm paraphrasing, and I'm reading from traditional academic points. I'm not reading from possibly correct, articulate, accurate, true forms, but in the commercial, legal realms, man losing the way, choosing to contract into and like when you hire a solicitor, like when you hire a brief, and I've done that. You know, I'm not saying we're any better than anybody else, but we answer to a name, we give a date of birth, we give a surname, we give a national insurance number, and for all intents and purposes, we claim that title, Mr. We claim the title, the public title. You know, it's quite vital. You know, you should hear this recital. You should all hold the equitable title. We got faith. We don't need Bibles. This is what we go on about. But in reality, as we know it, we seemingly have been taught by academic institutions, by schools, by employers, by everywhere. Some just doing their job. Some are in the dark arts, and we should be able to present ourselves. We should be able to manage our own estates, our own business, our own affairs. We should be knowledgeable within certain areas of life, civic, civil areas, civics themselves, and we're not. So we employ others to do so. We go out on a daily, most of us, a lot proportion of the world go out and use our bodies to make money for for everyday, innocent. It's to us, it's innocent, to get these credits, these promises, the imperial credits known as money, euros, dollars, and we make money from the use of our body in commercial intercourse, jobs, as I call it, to simplify it here today, bondage, slavery, and we sacrifice our free time with our families, and we go out and we use a name, a national insurance number, etc., SSIN, SIN, social insurance number, and we actively participate voluntarily in commercial prostitution, in servitude, and jobs, job, etc. And we've wandered from the path. So there are messages and lessons within the various biblical scriptures, going from the original Hebraic Phoenician text and the Torah, moving forward right through to what we know of the various editions of the New World Holy Testament today. There is other such messages in the Temple of Angkor Wat, in the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, in India, in scriptures, in Eastern philosophy, in Confucius's teachings. I could go on, and we could extrapolate all of the various forms of messages. And Hopi Indians, and the Mesoamericans and tribes, and the sky gods, and slavery and civilization, and it could go on for hours. But we forgive us, for we know not what we do. There's codes and there's messages there. Religion hasn't really helped us in the way that it should have. It may have started out, in the beginning, quite fundamentally to be what it was proclaimed to be, but over the course of the wars and eons and civilizations and battles and rebuilding of temples upon warmongering kings and queens with these divine rights, it's turned into something quite different than what it originally may not have been. So we need to recognize now how to put ourselves within this realm in 2022, because that's what's relevant right now. Money, debt, jobs, health, family, children. We keep it real, but we are aware of how we've got to this point and the things that are fundamentally important for us to remain private. How do I be sovereign? How do I remain private? How do I protect my estate? Are the questions we get asked. How do I interface with officers? How do I interface with courts? How do I present in a legal fashion? Well, man cannot present in a legal fashion. Man is able to represent the person, because that's what's known. Man is not known. So we have ways and means of interfacing with limited liability, and we deal with names, date of births and surnames, and certain things as we see fit. So it is a spiritual and religious area, but strictly speaking, it's for each one of you to decide. We're not here to tell, we're just here to have a chat and to talk about this, and how to get to the promised lands. And here's Claire. So on the screen, is the homepage for TNEM. I hope you can see that. Good evening, Claire. What?
Good evening, Claire.
And so every country, not just Sweden, every country, every landmass, every consciousness, every authentic Homo sapien, flesh and blood, soul, spirit, and consciousness has rights. And we're going to look at helping Sweden initially, as Anders is here, and this is their new domain. We would look at showing you what the ideas and the thought processes are behind what Anders and some of his fellow souls, Swedish sovereigns, Swedish souls just in general, conscionable beings of light, divinity and authenticity, have decided to try to do for the, what would you say, the community over there. And how we choose to present that and how you choose to present that is entirely up to you. Anders is helping to promote, as is this domain, SPLS Pro, our works, our ethos, and amalgamating their own ideas, wishes, requirements into protection, retainment and reservation of their rights, and interfacing on a commercial level with limited liability. I think that will do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is like this, that they this group TNEM, it was started a year or 1.5 years ago, and they've been using religious rights to being able to have the right food in schools. So if you are allergic to something, or if your religion says you can't eat that food, then you have the right to eat your own kind of food. And yeah, there is other stuffs too there that is really good. So and what the aim is, it is to be a free living human. And it's the same goal as SPLS Pro have. So that's why we were thinking it would be a good thing to put those two groups together. So yeah, that's how it started here. And yeah, the website is open, but we needed to give passwords to the members and everything. There is a little bit slow start now, but it's gonna come. Hey, doggy, take it easy now. So yeah, the thing is, this is just in the start now as a new thing. So we need to grow here, and we need to get members that are involved here, putting in information into the website, and there's lots of things that we have to translate from English to Swedish, because when you are writing something, David, and we put that into Google Translation, it is not what you have been telling us, you know. It is a totally different story that comes out of that because of the way you are spelling. You see that?
You need to correct, yeah, because I don't go through the YEWU as in U tree,
Yes.
for instance, instead of YOU. Yeah, so then you get tree, you get the punctuation and styles of is different to standard Oxford. I get that, yeah. So you'd have to speak it. You'd have to get a dictating software. You'd have to have a microphone and some kind of typing WordPerfect software, and then you'd have to get somebody listening or reading from and going to the mic and then dictating it that way. So then not using Google, but it's a little bit more labor intensive. But if you want to tailor that, copy and paste into Google, it will get lost in translation because it doesn't conform to the standards of which Google is looking for to translate. The linguistics is different. So I have fun with words. I not going to stick to the rules, but it's just the phonics and the sonics of it and the linguistics. Y-O-U, E-W-E and Y-E-W all sound the same. So yeah, I just have fun with words, which is a little bit head mash, but there you go. So is the topic that we're into. So I apologize.
What I want to say too is that there is already many people that are working to help this project to come out in a good way, and I have to say thank you to our Claire Randall that been doing the voiceover on that video. That was brilliant work. And
pleasure, brother. It was a pleasure. Thank you.
We're really happy about it. So.
Hello, evening, Claire. Yes, you sound very professional.
Good evening.
Very
How
good.
are we doing, brothers and everybody? How's it all going?
Yeah, it's going well.
Yeah, we are fine here. Oh, I see that Lisa, she's in the chat, and then I have to say, Lisa, I love you.
So may I just ask what you've got then? We've got here, they can read. I've put the link in to TNEM on the chat, and I'll put it into the video description as well. So those that aren't with us live now tonight, they can get it from in the video description in the details tomorrow. Once the video's rendered and uploaded, then I'll put the links into TNEM, or you can just type in tnem.org and you'll get to this page where the video is. There for you to watch a 1.5-minute introduction with Claire narrating over that.
Yeah, can we say that too, that the music to the video is actually made of one of the musicians from the group Roxette. So that's a funny thing too. So we have all stars here, you know, and I like that. And that's Claire too, you know.
Yes, I.
Yes, voiceovers for hire if anybody needs one.
Yeah.
It's really enjoyable doing. Website's looking lovely.
Yes, and you have been doing quite a lot of these voiceovers now, huh?
Yes, so I did a 9/11 documentary, and of course I do my own for Spy Squad. So yeah, getting the practice in. I really enjoy it, actually. It's not something I ever thought I would have done 10 years ago, but
yeah. Can you take away the chew bone from the dog again? So it makes so much noise here, that chew bone. So yeah, and I know that you, Claire, you have been looking at something similar that we are doing with a church or a faith society. And I wonder how far have you been coming with it?
Yeah, I have been researching. So for me, I think realizing like the Hegelian dialects that gets played on us, you know, there's one system that controls it. We're given the illusion of choice. So very early on, I've been struck with how do the Amish stay out of things, the Bruderhofs, which we've spoken about before. And that's just stayed with me. So I've been doing a lot of research around that. And for me, when the whole mandates came with, you have to have the thing in your arm or prove that you're exempt medically, for me, that was the Hegelian dialects. That was the two fake choices, because they're not choices at all. So it's like, well, what else is actually out there? Where's the third option? Where's the third choice? Because for me, there always has to be another. Otherwise, it's not a choice, is it? So the religious exemptions for me, the spiritual philosophical ones were where I started researching the church side a little bit more. So whether about setting up a church and a recognised religious group. The difficulty with that is, again, it's having to register it. So then it's still not yours. That's still anti-biblical. And then there's still a whole debate of how far I believe the Bible as in the word of God or inspired by God. So there's lots of different layers that I've had to unpick to decide what way to go with it that's best, you know, so that it's solid and it's got good, strong foundations and it's going to be worth the time and effort putting into it so that it is actually a possible remedy. Interestingly, what I found out was that most churches are registered as a 5013C, I think is what it's called. And so that gives them tax exemption. But that means then that if they do anything that's counter system, they lose their tax exemption status. So it's kind of like a hush money thing, isn't it? Do this or else. So one gentleman that I was researching, a pastor in America, was saying that you need to set up what's called a corporation sole. So I was looking into that and was struck. What was really interesting was that all of the governments, the monarchy, are all corporation souls. And I've got a book on it now. It goes back to like 325 AD or something. And the Vatican set it up so that bishops didn't lose the assets of the church when they sired heirs. They couldn't keep their penises in their pants, even though they were meant to. So they had offspring around the place, and they would have rightfully been an heir to the assets, you know, because that's how it worked. So they set up what's called a corporation sole. And again, going back to you, David, and your you and you, YOUEWE, the soul, as in the corporation soul, is phonetically the same as our soul, but it's spelled SOLE, like the sole on your foot. So, but legally, in the legal realm, not lawful, but legally, it's the same as us because we're recognized legally as a natural person. It has the same status as a natural person, which is why they can contract with us. So, and it's created to enable the succession of the new person who's going to manage that particular post. They can seamlessly take over. So, like the monarchy, the prime minister, you know, when they leave, the next person just comes in because the corporation soul is the person, the natural person. So again, linking to David, to your status, standing, and capacity, and recognizing that we're not a natural person. So for me, again, it's also looking at that we're spiritual, that we have spirit within us, and choosing the words really carefully to make sure that we don't end up slipping into the wrong jurisdiction. So that's as far as I've got at the moment. I think the natural person side, again, similar with human, I think those terms have been skewed and taken ownership, haven't they, by the system? So it's, again, recognizing that we're mankind in the Bible. If we're going by the Bible, we're man. Mankind is our, you know, the term they used. And we have spirit. So I think there's ways that you can navigate it. But actually the registering of a church, even registering a corporation soul, you can do it. It's about $500, I think, to go through this company. It's still registered. But I suppose then it's on par with monarchy, Vatican, governments, and all of that jazz. But a true church wouldn't need to be registered anywhere. And in Black's law, a church is a group of Christian believers. So that's quite interesting. I was also researching, again, looking at the sort of etymology of things. When you look at church, it says, just find it. Church is the place of assembly set aside for worship, and it's the body of Christian believers. So again, going back to that whole where I said we're in our own divine right, potentially a nation or a country. Body is the trunk of a man or beast. Interesting that they link us with that. And then the physical structure of a human or an animal. So see there, they're using human and man in different sentences. Why would they not stick to the same terms? If you're writing academically about something, you have to be very specific and clarify and on point with the word that you're using, and you wouldn't change from that really, because it would be confusing. So that's quite interesting. And then when you look a bit further and you look at body, the etymology of body, one of the things I found was it talks about body politica, which is, oh, excuse me, I'll read it here. It is body politic, the nation, the state, and the whole body of people living under an organized government. So, yeah, and that was all linked in church when you're looking at church. Land, territory, enclosure has a church. So all of that early work that I did on the etymology, now going back that I've been revisiting it from this angle, it's really interesting, the sort of overlaps and the tie-ins.
Yeah, I feel like religion has been used to control us the whole time, but I think it is now it is the right time that we are using religion for our cause.
Yeah, and I don't even necessarily think that it's a religion. I think it's for me, it's a set of principles and moral values that we're meant to live by, that's in line with natural law, how the universe wants us and expects us to be operating. And whether or not, I mean, even just going to whether the Bible is, you know, the word of God. I mean, how old is it? I watched a video a few weeks ago, a couple of days ago, where it was written in 1400 and something. So again, how much of that is how old it was, where it originally comes from? I know you look into that, David, you've gone a lot further than I have so far. But it talks about like prophecies. How do we even know that they're prophecies or they're plans that these evil satanic bastards that are trying to control everything have actually put in place, that they think, okay, right, this is going to take 500 years, you know, so it looks like a prophecy, but it isn't. It's just their plan that's now coming to fruition. I mean, who knows? I don't, you know, it's quite a crazy thing to unpick, but very interesting. And yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, it's good work. It really is.
We have the corpus hermeticum, we have corporations, we have the corpus juris, the body corporate, the corpse, it comes into it, wordplay again, and the origin of these, you know, corporation, soul, corpse, dead body, political, body, politics, body, corporate, body, water could be a body. It just goes on, and it depends how far you want to go. Yeah, but they've used layers and layers of linguistics through the times, and they've changed the implied meanings, definitions, and you've got to look at what you are speaking, what legalese, Oxford, English definitions, ecclesiastical. So depending on what jurisdiction you're in, these words have different meanings and definitions, and they've got different interpretations to them as well. So we look at the corpus crucifix, you know, Jesus and Jesus corpus, you know, and going through the commercial, legal, ecclesia. Yeah, it's very interesting. It is indeed. I did a post, and I quoted something Stephen was talking about when we was looking at EDP and the pol coming from Latin pollex, meaning thumb. That EDP would create a true person, but then legal, as you've mentioned there in the narrative you've put through, legal person, legal and natural person, corporation, soul. So with God, there is no respect of person. So there's a code in this, not necessarily the word of God, or because it's interpretations and people saying, prophets saying that they've had the word of God given to them. God has spoken to me, the Vatican and other, as well, the Latter Day have said and claimed, God has divinely, it's argumentatively not true. In some respects, God would never tell a president to go to war, because thou shalt not kill. So it's hypocritical to say the least, but with God, there is no respect of persons. Equity only acts on persons, it acts in persona. So I treat the London Legal Corporation Equity and Trust with contempt that it deserves, but there is other elements of equity and trust that should be held in high regard, and there are teachings and lessons to be learned. And as Santos and Jordan have said, there is layers of interpretations to these parables and findings within the scriptures themselves. So it depends on your, the truth being objective. It's objective down to your base of research, knowledge, understanding, and capability. The truth is always the same truth, but depending on how much your consciousness is going to expand, you look at it in the beginning, the truth, and it has a certain influence on you. But when you've gone away and done some work and research and chatted as we have, and discovery is what it is, then you come back and look at the truth. It has a different meaning because it's objective and subjective too. So we looked, persons and true persons, superior person, physical person, inferior person, juristic person. So it's a dead corporate body. We are not dead legal entities. Corporations are dead legal entities. The person that you have written to has no soul, so soul and the spelling of soul is very interesting. And our soul, I did like that. I must revisit that where you said that rissoles, another type of soul, soul fish, soul food, and SOLE, SOUL, and persons themselves, and man, and contradictions in the academic areas themselves as well. So persons can be companies and companies can be persons. Names are for companies, they're not for man as such. And I would argue that an EDP in certain jurisdictions would do a lot more benefit than other remedies that have been put forward to us. Because if you look at the legal arena and what governs the legal arena, and the London Templars Law Society is mimicking the teachings of the Bible, if you go into the realms of EDP, and you create a true person, even though it's a person, and with God there is no respect of person, it would elevate you to a higher entitlement of rights. It's about rights and what rights you claim and what titles you claim. So the EDP would, done correctly in certain format and made known to the ones that are relevant in that legal ecclesiastical courts, being laid out like a Protestant church, so to speak, and the jurisdiction of that, it would elevate you. It may not be the top final hurdle that you want to go into, but with regards to lawful remedy to legal situations, then obviously that type of person is higher than a Mr. or a Mrs., a true person. So as the basic fundamental point to hang on is that the legal system goes for the low-hanging fruit, and the low-hanging fruit is what is often fed upon. So if you remove yourself from being the low-hanging fruit to the fruit at the top of the tree, then that lasts longer. It may still be on the tree and subject to potential picking and feeding upon in the eaters and those that want to eat in the Garden of Eden, but you will be eaten last. So it's not, from our point of view and from our research, the end point goal, but in the battle and in the realm of these arenas, then it can put the armor on you should you need to. So we're in a warship, warfare, and we've got the papacy in the Vatican City, the bishops, and things like this at play, the monarchy, the Templars, the Masons. It's there's a lot of factions. That's why I said in my speech at the beginning, we recognise that, and we're not here to fight. We want what we're looking for is a way to exit peacefully and call a truce and just say enough of the fighting, enough of the war. It's very much a work in progress and a team effort here. So depending on the jurisdiction you're in, you know, and it's not always English law, English land law, or the law of property, England and Wales. It can be UK public, civil, legal. It could be enshrined with ecclesiastical, you know, and you can elevate too, and you can get no decision by a court, say a magistrate is final, and you can then look to elevate things that haven't gone correctly into higher courts and move forward that way. You know, and it's what we've come to discover, those that claim to be holier than thou and enshrined with justice and honorability, such as the monarchy and lords. You know, Lord, there is only one Lord God written in the book, but they try to elevate themselves. You see that title, Lord, Lordship, Admiralty, Maritime, Water, Lord and Lordship, the boat, then Township, Fellowship, you know, these other titles with ships, the lower ships, the mothership, the battleship. So that's why I speak the way I do and I write the way I write, because after a certain point, you either succumb to it and have a meltdown and go no further, or you just have to have fun with it and show other people by the way that I write, Anders and others, and my publications, amongst the grammatical errors, the spelling and the dyslexia. I do hope that there is a little element of, you know, people say it does cheer them up when they start to see the potential meanings and implied definitions within the different jurisdictions and the parameters of which we weren't aware of through our blissful ignorance. So these factions that are with us, kingships, lordships, you know, in our townships with the fellowships of this ring that we're looking for, you know, it's interesting to say the least, but the jurisdiction of UK and England, you know, the monarchy themselves, its significance is there. And when we're looking at rights and property rights and common law and equity and land and titles and courts, and it's not our fault. We didn't start the fire, and it's been burning for a long time. All we're doing is saying that there's a few ways to get to the same point and different remedies for different people, but there is one irrefutable, clear-cut path to put on some armor and not take those liabilities and apportion it to the correct legal entity, which would be us, not saying that we're a person, a name, a date of birth, and you know, such things as volunteering information and keeping the rights with the rights to silence, and we've gone through various chats and publications and things, you know, and you've seen yourselves in your own little battles and wins in this war, how you can you know, rise above and win and get to the end point, whereas before we didn't really have that with constitution, common law, Magna Carta, vexatious demands and not doing business correctly, and ending up being the surety for the liabilities and getting summary judgments, for instance, in the absence of intellectual wills. We were invited to a battle, you know, of intelligence, and we didn't take the intelligence. I invited you all. We was invited to a battle of the wills, you know, and we forgot to take our intelligence. We took anger and emotion, and we listened to others that claim certain things. And as I said at the beginning of this video, in that speech there, this is in homage to all of that. And case law in itself is paramount. What we've come to discover is using the case law for certain things, constructive notices, presumed, you know, undue influence, third parties, circumstances, presumptions, and, you know, in contrast to all of that, the misrepresentation through our subsequent research, discovery, inquiries, and the finding of equity and trust and the power of that within the common law, you know, areas, and looking at maxims, you know, volunteering. It's not someone who merely acts selflessly. in the legal and equitable context, it refers to someone who provides a benefit regardless of whether the recipient will want it. So there's a lot into this that I've had to correct as well. And, you know, it's truly amazing, you know, and when we teach, when we say the beauty of what we've come to know, what Sweden is doing, what we're all doing on this channel in our own groups and with SPLs, is that we feed their own words back to them, their own due process, failings of due process, their own English laws, and we teach them, you know, we give them their own medicine, and they don't like to swallow it, do they? So, but that's not our problem, you know. They try to make us swallow their medicine, and which through our own discovery, you know, and our own hard work, that we've become effective in what we do.
Yeah, that's fine, but we need to have medical freedom. Nobody can tell us that this is our medication, like you said now as an example here.
Well, yeah, and that speech that I said at the beginning of this video was going to be read out before the move at Christmas. And in light of the convoys and things that were happening more recent around the world, the realm, with the speaking up of and the defense of rights for, and Supreme Courts, and the administration of Biden, the Canadian, noise that's been made recently, what's happening in England, what's happening to the nurses, you know, and the flip-flopping and the reversals of the UK government under Boris's government now, and doctors and nurses do not need to take mandatory vaccines. And you can see that the undermining lessons here to learn are those that stand by their beliefs. As I said in that speech at the beginning, again, it's all reflective upon, I'm glad I've left it late and I've read it out on the middle of February instead of the middle of December, because you can see that those that believe in themselves, in what they do, and try to effectively retain and reserve rights and put the liability back on the claimants, and go down that path very seldom tread by others, because fear is the biggest weapon used against man, and fear of losing your job, fear of not being able to pay the rent, the mortgage, feed the assets, children, offspring, and fear of not being able to live your life as comfortably as you are doing now through your job as a nurse or a doctor, and people then obviously succumb to that fear and said, against my better judgment, against my wishes, I will take the offer that's been given to me. And those that stuck to their guns and their beliefs, and kept clean hands and managed it the way they did, and trod that path of uncertainty in their own elements of fear, but sticking to what they believed, have now triumphed in that. And you can see that on the world platform. So it's again, it's a long journey, but it does generally pay off, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Definitely. Interesting as well. Like, I've started reading the Bible myself to unpick stuff. So I thought I'll start with the New Testament first. So started with Matthew, which is the gospel according to Matthew. Well, gospel, go spell, actually means good spell. Obviously, we're spellcast because, you know, magic's real, words are spells. And it's funny because some of the different verses in the different chapters talks about preaching the gospel, the truth of the kingdom. And there was one I made me think of you, David, because it brings it all back to the ecclesiastical. Well, just like heaven, it's the kingdom of heaven. So heaven is, you know, they thought of was the sky above the firmament. So that would be the ecclesiastical, wouldn't it? Because it's up in the air. Would that be right? You know, you look at sort of like the jurisdiction. So you've got air for ecclesiastical, land is common law, water is admiralty. There's a hierarchy, isn't there, of their laws, how they're So the ecclesiastical would have been the first laws, presumably, that were man-made. Then the law of the land. Is that right? Is that how the order that they came about in?
It's quite interesting that you say that, because I think the air laws are the same as the land laws, even
Okay.
if it's a ship going in the air. So
Well-
don't know if that can have something to do with that heaven you was talking about.
Yeah, see, I was thinking it more the ecclesiastical, which is, the religious sort of laws.
Yeah.
What were you going to say, David?
It's a in-depth question, because you asked a question that seems simple to answer, and universal cosmic laws in the beginning, natural law, LORE, and then obviously after that, man, civilized man and tribal, and the laws there, we was in harmony, in unison with everything, until civilization happened. And whenever that was, whenever the sky god seemingly came down, I believe that is the way that things of Anu, Enki, Enlil, when I say sky gods, the lords themselves came down and started to genetically, it's a touchy subject for some, but it appears it is more evidenced than the other subject, which is the Holy Testament and the word, of which it isn't historical, factual depiction of history. It is just a belief. It is to follow something without knowing, without having substance and form and proof, is to be in a cult. And that's simply the way that the facts of the matter are. So what will the facts say from civilizations and history, and what we've seen from discovery of these scholars and thought leaders, too many and various to mention, is that the watchers came down, and the lords, the three, the Elohim, the Elohim, and then we became civilized. Then they cleared off, and then we was left with the kingships, going to the most recent would be Egypt, and the society there, and then obviously after Egypt, the Romans, and the Romans emulating after one civilization is beaten, and build their temples on their temples, and they've taken bits and and to suit themselves rewritten the truth as a lie. We've come to know a lie as the truth, when mythology is true and the history is a lie. So with laws and the creation of the crown, the papacy in itself has a large part in that, forming the Christianity as such, the Bibles, and creating the division of heaven and hell, and those laws, ecclesiastical laws. But it goes back thousands of years, doesn't it? Who knows, to be precise, but going back thousands of years before Christ, BCE, and you see before that how we lived, or how we allegedly lived, and before civilization, it comes to a point where you look at the periods in history. But it's food for thought, isn't it? The way that mankind has evolved over, to think the world is billions of years old, and Christianity proclaims it's 5,000 years old, and to think that we regard ourselves as the most intellectual, established civilization that has been on the face of the earth in all this time is complete arrogance. So when we speak of laws and we look at laws, there was civilizations before our civilizations that had seemingly more intellectual abilities and powers and laws and scientific, wholesome universal laws, as the civilizations, even in India, the architecture, and Lebanon, the Middle East, Baalbek, things like that, the peninsula, it's just incredible, the laws and the technology, and the evidence is there, the Piri Reis map, and civilizations that was were depicted, and how they've had this technology, out of place artifacts. And when we speak of laws, who knows, but we've got a rough grip on it. And they've taken the truth, kept it, locked it in the Vatican cellars, kept it to the elite few, and then given us bare minimum, lies and deceit. Everything we've come to know of is been twisted, turned upside down, inside out, and to suit the 1%, to keep us good little. I don't know how you'd put that, but I don't
Slaves,
mean that.
good
Yeah,
slaves. We're good
yeah,
slaves. And it says, doesn't it say you can't? We are. Even in the Bible, it says you can't have two masters. You're either a slave to money or you're a slave to God. So we're just slaves. That was in Matthew. I was reading that the other day. Look, another one said you are the salt of the earth. Salt being a substance essential to life, also able to, in ancient times, they thought it was able to repel spiritual and magical evil. We've all definitely been dispelled, haven't we? So, yeah, it's quite.
yes, it's a good old. It is a journey of spiritual consciousness, and the leaders, the ones that you look at, the books we read, the work that's been done. It's time that we had a lot of this. Antiquitech revealed to us again, and you know, the government, to go off on a tangent, but to keep the thread, the governments and the agencies are now saying that there is evidences from their own archives of unidentified objects. We know them as UFOs. To talk about UFOs over the course of human history has been a conspiracy theory, and it got you a tinfoil hat club badge. But now governments have said, actually, we've got shit we don't know about, but they do know about. The point is that if they told us they knew about it, we'd demand alternative sources of 0 point free energy, and we would want to get rid of our smart metered payment systems of burning fossil fuels, gases and oils. So they play a very cunning game where they are slowly drip feeding us certain things which they know full well they've got the technology of. There's a, you know, people say to me, David, you're off your head. There is no cover up as such. And I'm like, you know, when you do a freedom of information request and you ask for something and they redact it, and when you get the information has got black marks all across the page, and you only get 10% of the documents you asked for because the rest is redacted for reasons of national security, for instance. Well, what do you think that exactly is on that page there? What are them black blocks and lines? What are they? They're covering up something. So when you tell me, oh, you know, you go too deep, you go too far, you don't focus on what is real and now, and you're a bit of I don't like your conspiracies, and there is no cover up. There is too much cover ups, you know, with regards to science, health and well-being. What happened to Wilhelm Reich, Royal Raymond Reich, Nikolai Tesla, certain other, you know, minds that have gone past, relevant ones, the Jack Fresco Venus Project. You know, man came along and said, I'll give you answers to all the world's problems and nobody will starve. Everybody can live in harmony. We can live with the animals. We'll get housing, we'll get energy, and we'll create this thing called the Venus Project. Here you go. You can have it for free. It's my life's work. It was covered up. You know, things are covered up. Things are not given to us. Technology, we would demand in the form of free 0 point energy. I believe Oxford have just said, haven't they, on the news, that they're developing plasma unlimited energy now. It's just a joke, it really is. So we've got to look at the fact that information is kept from us because we're deemed not able to handle it, or it's not beneficial for the bloodlines of the lineages of the families that Bonacci and Maxwell and others have talked about, that profit from this. You know, no man paid for the earth, no man created the earth or the universe for that matter, and we've got to learn to try to balance it all out now. We are at a crossroads with regards to everything. This last 2 years has been a total farce with regards to a lot of areas: science, religious, medical, financial. All institutions have been called into question, and it's time that we do what, you know, we feel is right, isn't it?
Yeah. We have to start to follow the heart, not only the brain. because I never heard about anybody that been heart washed. I only heard about people that been brainwashed, you know.
Well said, Anders.
This is it. Yeah, it's
What was I was listening to earlier? Amanda Angel shared a thing by Bill Donahue, and I've seen him before, so I thought, oh, I'll go listen to some of him while I was driving. And there was one about the word that I went and watched, about how the word manifests, word becomes life. You know, it's manifest into physical matter, us. And oh, I've lost it now. Where's it? Hang on, give me a minute.
The world.
Yeah, no, he was talking about the chakras in our spine. And before religion, all of the ancient practices were, like looking back to ancient India and things like that, the practice was about meditating, and it was being connected to the spiritual world, and your consciousness would be raised through these different 7 chakras. And if you were to have surgery on your back, they wouldn't find the chakras because they're not physically there. So, people dispute that they're actually real because you can't see them. And he made a good point. Well, it's like a brain surgeon opening up and having a look at your brain and not seeing your thoughts because you can't see them, but they are there. I thought that was quite an interesting analogy of how to. I got a 10-shilling note here that I took a photo of. It's at Graham's, my other half's parents' house. I didn't know they did shilling notes. It's about 50p apparently. But interesting, it's got for the government, or for the gov, G-O-V, and comp with a little tiny A above it. I don't know what that means. If anybody does, leave a note in the comments. Of the Bank of England. So it's already listed it there as a company, hasn't it? It's I still think, because we've got no money, it's cash. Again, a switching of word. So the whole thing about being a diplomat is diplomacy. It's clarifying points, so there's no confusion, so there's no arguments or issues. So all of these notes, I promised to pay the bearer £10. If we've got mortgages and things like that, and it's like, £100,000, surely that means we could send £100,000 of dirt to the head office of the bank. Here you go. Here's my £100,000 worth of manure, maybe. Yeah. Carrots, potatoes. Would they be able to dispute that? Because it doesn't say anymore on the notes, does it? It just says £10. It doesn't say £10 of what? It used to be £10 sterling, didn't it? It doesn't say that anymore. So is this our maxim where, those who provide the thing have got to provide the remedy? Is the vagueness and the ambiguity, there's missing words there, us to fill in the blanks? Okay, I'm going to send you £10,000 worth of blah. That's my deck cleared. Thank you very much.
The banking cartel of the Bank of England, and the Master Rishi, we wouldn't like that. You're right with that. I've done some promissory, I've done some paperwork with regards to bill of sale, and I've put on there that things was exchanged, items, property, assets, there we go, was exchanged. And on the bill of sale, I've put £10 off, and then have used vegetables, because you're bang on, and that's our private tender and vendor. Not so much, it's not legal currency. When we go into currency, our word is our bond. When we go into the unsticking, when we see of this world, the financial world coming unstuck. Professor Richard Werner points out, and when we look at the bills of exchange and the private banking cartel of England, and we get into it all, and we look at solvency, insolvency, tangible, intangible terminology, the constitution of banking in itself, and what that is, and private banking, and currency, tender, vendor, lender and all of this mortgage or mortgagee charges. And again, it goes into the electricity world. Electricity, it just paradigms off again in splinters. But I would say that securities are the ultimate. What you've just said there, it boils down to instruments. Now you play an instrument, you have an organ. The human body is made of organs, organization. So organizations, instruments, again, contained within body corporates. So it goes into securities and trading securities. You've got security firms. You've got different types of securities there. So you need to know which securities you're on about, but instruments of security nature and how you would look at reclaiming, or not even but claiming securities, and what securities you would what you have secured assets and secured loans against, and these intrinsic value that is added, tangible secured interest loans. It's interesting, Boris getting pulled out for helping out with the energy crisis and the hike within utility, prices going up, and the regulators stepping in, and they said Mr. Master Rishi and Boris have come up with a plan that Kia's ripped apart, saying, you've said you're going to give people £1,000, so many £100, but they've got to pay it back at £50 a year. So really you're giving, I think it's fantastic. It really is. Sometimes it's this system of ours, this public, legal, civil, financial system, how they all intertwine together. And then you see at PMQs and when they're arguing, and you see the act that goes on there. They're not called Boris and Kia, they're called my right honourable friend, Mr. Speaker. And you see the characters that are at play here. Nobody's in their own public or even they're in a public capacity, but they're never in their private personal capacity. We talk
They're in
about
the corporation sole capacity.
Yeah, they talk about Dun and Bradstreet numbers and companies and corporations, and Mr. Boris Johnson is always referred to as my right honourable friend or the Prime Minister. You see how they play this game here, and it's at our expense of the ignorance is bliss there. But all that aside, in the House of Commons at PMQs, when I heard what they was talking about, I was like, oh, I'd love to just get a chance to comment on all of this live and talk, do like a voiceover and just explain certain things. What he really means there is, and why they're doing that is this, and it's they kind of give you little bits as to insights of the wrongness of it all, but they don't go the full way towards all of it. If we actually could get people to our families to know that there is no debt and there is no money and there's only promises, and our word is our bond, and what bonds are, and do bonds glue, you glue stuff with bonds, you get bonded, a baby bonds with its mum, and again going into all of this paradigm of the words and how they're interpreted, and the different, you see one word can mean 3 different things in different dictionaries and different jurisdictions with the terminology that you're using. So again, it's a divine comedy in a way, and it's done to warp your mind. So those that criticize me, not Anders, this isn't aimed at you at all in any way, or anybody that said, Dave, your words are great, but could you just write in plain English? Because but that's why, because we're in a world that does that to us. And as a dyslexic man, boy, I really struggled, as many of you did, and still do, to read certain things and understand them. And then when you come along to it and you find all this out, you're like, no wonder I, as a little boy, struggled with these words and their various meanings and the same spellings, but different meanings. And, so it's designed so we're never gonna, it's not transparent and it's not simple, and it requires interpretation and years of study in an academic institute for you to become a master at it. And that's not how life should be. That's not how we do things. Our word is our bond, and our trust is a currency. We entrust one another, and we respect you from the start, but your trust is to be earned. And when you're entrusted, it's an honorable thing to have awarded to you, and to give trust and to be trusted means you're a trustee. The trustees aren't always such a bad thing. It can be a position of honor, and we look at these various trusts that we've found and most of them to be a public legal trustee, and the title rights that go with that and the public liabilities is a bad thing. But in that certain type of trust setup, without legal interference, what we do in a private capacity and how we manage our private estates and affairs and communities and daily deeds and businesses is very honourable and one of the highest positions you could ever have. It's just these lot and the banking system as such, the ecclesiastical religious system. And you're right, in the Bible, there are messages and codes in the chapters and the various editions, and the Geneva Bible, the King James Bible, the New World Testament, the ancient scriptures, and then the different civilizations, scriptures and writings and books and theologies about it, and theology in itself, the Egyptians, the Greeks, the pantheons of gods that you come to find, the involvement of the planets, moony lunacy of it all is just fantastic. So it's no wonder we are a species with amnesia, and we are quick to attack one another and to self-medicate and just give up, because there's that many dictionaries and books and things that you can look at to try to fathom your way out of this. Without the right teacher, without the right you being initiates, looking at being disciples, moving your way through that course up to self-initiation, self-good governance, and into mastery of all of this for yourself, losing the fear and controlling the fear not being the prime emotion that directs your everyday life and directions of daily making your daily decisions out of fear and necessity, but out of choice and out of self-esteem and thinking how you're going to act rather than reacting, and certain things, that control element that you get, and that self-satisfaction moving forward into disciples from discipline and initiates into teachers and masters of the realm, up to apostolates, diplomats you've mentioned. It's different positions for that. Different people have different initiates have different aspirations of where they want to be and what they want to go into. Apostles as such, as I said there, and prophets, many prophets that we come to see, and initiates at different levels. And that's what I love about YouTube and the channels and our chats and the scribes and the groups and things that we do. And mistakes have been made by all of us, and that's how we learn. Mistakes aren't such a bad thing, and there's nothing to be embarrassed about. Not really, but we do that because we're humble and we're human. So that then you tail between your legs kind of thing. But you've got to learn the ego, and the control of that helps out as well. But we are, the universe trusts us, and you get that trust from the universe, and magical things start to happen. And this spell casting and spelling and magic and cursive language that we have, and putting curses on one another and cursing one another, is it's a vicious circle, and we've learned to break that and to use it to our advantage, and to become our own wizards of mythology, of such of which isn't myth, it's actual true fact. You can command your life and command the universe. You can think yourself to good wealth. Napoleon Hill, is it? Think and Grow Yourself Rich. Napoleon Hill, I think, is a great book there. But you can actually manifest, as many of these Indian teachers have told us, and gurus of such, so much as apostles and initiates of higher levels and the attainment of higher knowledge. But you become even a guru of sorts, and it's lawful. It is lawful. It all comes down to these, we've got to change our misconceptions and preconceptions, misdiagnosis, aspects of our lives, whether it is legal, lawful, spiritual, religious, financial, and we get down to the facts of the matters. And we believe, contrary to the academic medical institutions, which leads me up to, I didn't know that in about 2012, the creator of ADHD, the man that coined it, on his deathbed, said that he made it up. Around the 11th of June 2013, there was a man for instance, just one thing, and I don't know everything. I don't claim to know everything, but on the forum, I was talking to a scribe, a supporter called goes by the handle of Lex Steel, and I was on about my angle of getting the doctor to agree that I do not qualify Man David biologically for the approved and non-licensed vaccine. And I was, I'm taking the doctors and general practitioners down a path of which they cannot retreat, which will render them no alternative but to say, yes, David, we cannot say with a clear conscience and 100% safety that this approved and non-licensed vaccine that, oh, I've got the paperwork. You wouldn't believe the side effects. I don't know where I've put the paperwork, but it gives you so many side effects, and it says unknown side effects, and it talks about swelling of the heart and heart palpitations for the BioNTech Pfizer product that they're offering. And I went down the path of taking a self-test for the GPs to look at, which was abbreviated as an ASMR or something test. And I was talking about being young, having vaccines. And when my mum took me back to the doctors after some vaccinations, she said, whatever was in those injections has rendered my son an energetic ball of destruction, and he doesn't sleep and he destroys everything, and he's no longer the son that I used to know. And the doctor said what he needs is some Ritalin, and I believe he's got ADHD. So I was discussing all of this within the COVID Corona forum of splspro.com and showing the self-test, what I did and my answers, leading the GPs down the garden path. Before I go in for the full attack, I'm going to go softly, and then I'm going to build up to my full-on liability notices and things like that. And I've got to be careful on YouTube what I say. And the handle Lex Steel pointed out about the creator. If you search on any search engine, ADHD fictitious disease, okay, that's 3 words, you will find the peer-reviewed, authentic areas. And I'm not saying I don't have hyperactivity and that others don't have hyperactivity. What I'm saying is what we've got and our characteristics of our individuality has been labeled as attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, but it isn't actually that. It was made up by a man so he could profit from it. And the medical industry has had to, since what year did I say? I think it was 2013-ish. It came out and it's been reported. So there you go. What do you think of that?
Well,
Yeah, go, Claire.
no, you go first.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid and they was giving me this polio shot. And I was just 5 or 6 years old. And I remember telling my mama that I felt like slow, you know, everything was slowing down. So that is the biggest memory I have of injections, medicals. You know, it's like I felt like everything was going much slower, you know. And that's a strange thing.
Yeah.
Well, ADHD actually over here used to be called hyperkinetic disorder. It actually had a different name.
Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder is
No. Yeah, that's the well-known one. But in England and still in some of the NICE guidelines, it's down as the hyperkinetic disorder. That's still here in England. They've still got that listed. It's in Europe, it's more classed as that. There's an IPS medical standard. So you've got the DSM-5, and then there's another alternative. So the DSM-5 is a diagnostic statistical manual for mental health disorders and things. And in that, it's got both linked. So I'm just trying to find that article that you were talking about when they changed it. Yeah, hyperkinetic reaction. but in the DSM-3 it changed. Which is about 1980.
Wait there. I have something to show just because of where we are and what's going on. So that's a leaflet that somebody's given me. That's it's entitled there on the top. It's 4 pages long. I was doing some due diligence and research about someone that's actually had the Pfizer BioNTech. Yeah, and that's what Pfizer and BioNTech, what they give you after you've had the jab. Okay, and here rare side effects may affect 1 in 1,000 people. Temporary one-sided facial drooping, allergic reactions such as hives or swelling of the face. And then it goes on to say, not known, cannot be estimated from available data. Severe allergic reaction. It's a bit vague, really. What is a severe allergic reaction? Just hold your thoughts. Next bullet point, inflammation of the heart muscle, myocarditis, or inflammation of the lining outside of the heart, pericarditis, which can result in breathlessness, palpitations, or chest pain. Then you've got extensive swelling of the vaccinated limb, or swelling of the face. Swelling of the face may occur in patients who have had facial dermatological filters. I don't know if it will allow you to go. Oh, there you go. You can see, hopefully it's not backwards, what I'm reading from that leaflet. So I was being quite, rather than I demand exemption and X, Y, and Z and rocking the boat, I was being quite coy in my lines of inquiry for the GP to admit or dismiss, and if other such products were going to be given instead of BioNTech, Pfizer, then I would be requiring the the breakdown of the package leaflet information for the user, which is given by the manufacturer to be having a look at, so then could make an informed decision before choosing whether or not to accept the offer. And I was just showing people
That's interesting though, because if you're on ADHD meds, which I've got a load of, because I haven't been taking them for ages, because of other health things and just realizing that they're not really good for me. I have to have a blood pressure and heart monitor check done regularly, because the ADHD meds are stimulants, and you've got to have a sound heart to even be allowed them. So if that causes issues with the heart, then it wouldn't be compatible with the medication that I'm on. So
yeah, Pfizer, BioNTech, yeah. I've wrote the letter to them and asked for them to write back to me.
What, Pfizer?
No, to the GP regarding, I've given them the reasons why I would not qualify, because they keep texting me and messaging. And if we look around the world and the way that rights are being ignored, I was looking at, we've got quite a lot in our armory already, what's been shared with us and what we've done, what work Kevin's done. And we've got more than what we need with regards to anybody taking a position. And as the governor, I'm doing it a little bit differently. I'm starting the battle. I've ignored it for the last 2 years. And I'm thinking, if the government and the industry itself starts to go down various pathways of restricting rights, we're talking traveling. I like to travel, I'll be honest. I'm a traveler. My ethnicity is traveler, and I want to continue to be able to travel. So I'm thinking I might need to do something now and administer this situation, rather than just hope that it goes away and that it will be all right, and that I can use my sovereignty, private status, standing in capacity, put people on notice and hope they'll be honourable, and that will fix it. So I've decided to go through different avenues now. I'm at the beginning stages of it, and I've already had my GP say to me he doesn't think that it's based on private family genealogy and stuff that it would benefit me, but then they've left it there. So I've gone down the lines of possibly being on the autistic spectrum, having traits of ADHD as an adult, and the doctor wanting to put me onto Ritalin and so forth, and I've expressed my social characteristics with regards to me, private life, with relationships, as an employee, as an employer and manager, and all these things throughout my time, and interpretation of language, interpretation of emotions, how I deal. I've done a big thing about why I would. I'm fine, to be honest, but legally, academically, there are strings that you can pull, and things that the system will acknowledge or not acknowledge, and it's up to each and all to choose how to proceed to play the game of life. So they sent me a form, which was a self-assessment form, ASRS, and I've uploaded some documents to the forum, which is allow you to look at these PDFs, which the academic medical industry use for telling whether or not somebody may or may not be suffering from social impositions, is what I'll call it. We're not less abled, we're not disabled, and how you find difficulties in life with certain positions. So yeah, it's a symptom checklist, a self-report symptom checklist, and I'm having fun with that, and trying to say and point out that as having adverse reactions as a young boy to inoculations didn't do me any favors. So I would like to let the doctors know, and then I would be classifying myself as not qualifying and doing it this way, you see. So we've all got mental health issues, whether you acknowledge that or not. And I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean, we've all got a brain, and we've all got a consciousness and mental health that needs management. Like your body needs management, your BMI, your diet, your energy, your sleeping, your emotions as such, and how you regulate and maintain that is up to you. And we have all got to do that inside as well. Like you've said about thoughts, invisible forces that we can't see, universal forces, emotions. We can't see the emotions, but they're there, and we have them, and they need management. Conscious management of self. Mindfulness is what the Eastern initiates and gurus talk about. In Tibetan Buddhism, they call it mindfulness, and how to be mindful of self, how to self-analyze. Me and Greg talk about this quite a lot, self-analytical thoughts that we have throughout the day. Can they be detrimental to us, or can they be positive to us, and turning negative into positive? Management of thoughts, catching emotions, stopping the anger before it gets, I feel I'm going to be angry. Is it logical, like Dr. Spock? Is it logical to be angry? Is it going to benefit me to be angry? Can I stop this anger, and can I pause for a moment and bottle the anger? And then if it's going to be beneficial and it's positive for me to be angry, then I'll vent that anger. Otherwise, I shall keep it subdued for the time being, and I will just remain. And I'll breathe then, and I'll use breathing exercises to regulate the emotions and the glands that are secreting, such things as adrenaline and other such things. And I'll be like, right, these need to, whereas before I'd have had a fag or a joint or some alcohol or popped a tablet, mindfulness of self. So this is where we need to look at, again, all of us in an individual manner, in a non-academic, non-medical manner, managing these, and with the plant kingdom, that would help. Nothing wrong with plants at all, to be fair, as the great Greek man of medicine might have said, Hippocrates.
I think actually just to put in there, the mindfulness, the Buddhists, they don't analyze. They're silent witnesses, so they observe the thoughts coming by with no judgment. That's
outside of them.
Yeah.
I am not my thoughts. I am not my thoughts. That's right. Yeah.
See, for me, it still doesn't sit right with my spirit and my soul, morally or ethically, to try and go for medical exemption, because I'm allowed to say no. It's my God-given womanly right to choose what I put in my body. And that's it. point blank. No, thank you. I think that's my concern is with going. I mean, I could easily go for the medical exemption and probably would get it. But for me, that's still doing something that they've orchestrated and put into place and buying into that. And I don't want to buy into that at all. I don't, yeah. But that's my personal thing. I get that a lot of people need to if they want to continue working or doing certain things, but that's why I've been looking at the religious exemption, because that's not been covered anywhere.
Yeah. What are you guys saying about what's happening now that one of the princes has been going out and saying that we need to have a HIV testers? And then there is coming up lots of articles about that when MH307 or something was going down, they have over 20 scientists that been on HIV cases, checking them up and everything. And they are gone. They are not alive anymore, and more people, they are just dropping off. Luc Montagnier, he was dying now in the week. And it seems like there is a thread there,
Yeah, David, can you bring that BioNTech thing back up? Because linking on with that, Anders, what it is, there's a chemical in it, which is listed in the ingredients, that reduces the body's natural immunity, so that the lipid, so the spike protein thing is encased in a lipid.
Oh, you have to be careful with what you're. I carry on, but remember last time, Claire, and the community guidelines.
Yeah, no, that's fine. This is in the community packaging, so it's not anything controversial. It's factual. It can be found on their website.
I'm not blaming you. I'm sorry to say this. It makes
it's
me
fine.
angry, but yeah.
Just for the people out there that are regulating, this is factual from BioNTech themselves. If you go back down to that paperwork that you had with the ingredients.
Package leaflet. Yeah, I've just done a quick scan.
Yeah. As you were scanning it, I thought, right, let's get to where it is. Okay, slowly.
It's the last page. Yeah.
That's it there. Right. So move the cursor a little bit.
Wait there. We'll go back up. I tried to enlarge it.
Okay, so the dittetradecylacetabtide, I think it is, possibly. Some of these weird, funny things. One of them is a substance that I Googled it and looked at what it does. It reduces the body's immunogenicity, it's called immunogenicity. So it shuts off the immune system so that the lipid nanoparticle can get and deliver it to the cell, because otherwise it would be got rid of. So it turns off our immune system to fight the thing that they've injected into us so that it can enter the cell to then program the cell to produce a spike protein. So interestingly, if there is a link with HIV, which is an issue with the immune system, that might be potentially why, because it's got this chemical in it. Okay. Might be why. That's just my personal thoughts and speculation. And we are, free speech.
No, it's facts though. This is actual substance. Yeah, this isn't speculation as such. This is actual. We're not epidemiologists, scientists, but we are allowed to contemplate the offer and look at the evidences and information that is given to us, and rather than just presume, assume, and go with the chitter chatter of. This is why I've got this information. This is why we're talking about it now, even though it's controversial. These are the facts of the matter, and that's why I've got the paperwork up just to back up actually what we're on about and what we're saying for the good of all.
I'm just checking the chat. Jesus says all women say no, or is that just him? Must just be you, Jesus. I don't say no to my man very often.
No.
Bless. Yeah, we'll have a look at the chat room and then we'll look at closing up then, because I've got to be up again at 5 o'clock, 6 hours for another 12-hour shift. So I don't want the violin out. I'm just saying I only had 5 hours last night. I slept for 2 hours though, and then I couldn't get to sleep when I should have gone live. Messed up the sleep. We'll have a look, see what's chatting. Someone just said, I saw a comment saying, can you help me with my council tax? Wow, yes, that's an interesting subject in itself. I've dealt with council tax previously at a different property in Derby, and I didn't settle it. I returned it. I didn't quote why I'd returned it. I'd put some words on, and I refused the offer of contract, and I didn't hear anything back from it. But then I moved from the address, and I moved from Derby to somewhere else, and then I started traveling and becoming a full-on traveller. And I lived in Greece for a bit. Then I came back to England, and I believe after 6 years, the Statute of Limitation Act of 1980 comes into play, and there is many and various ways of trying to discharge the charges. And looking at this, and the best one that I've seen recently is to do with the bills of exchange and the computation of time, and certain things are making counter offers there. So we'll talk about that. If you look on the channel, you subscribe or scribe, as I like to say, and you watch out for advanced notifications of when we go live, then we will hold a questions and answers session when I haven't been out for 12 hours. And if you put comments on the bottom of this video of what, not the live chat, but if you come back when the video is finished and you write underneath this what you would like subjects to be talked about, then I and others, or myself, if need be, will come back and we will look at what you've written, and then I promise to talk about them and give you information on that. Yeah, all right. And I'll skim the room in a minute, yeah. I want to show you something as well. When we talked about, this is on point of what we've talked about, I've created a forum which is called True Law in amongst the international law. And I found a lotus of the true law. And I've got a lot of tagged words here: Buddhism, Kanga, lotus of true law, Mahabharata, Nekama. I'm not even going to try and say that, but that word there that I'll highlight: Sanskrit, sutras, Tenga, and Wat Pra Dhammayaka. And the Wat Pra Dhammayaka is what I want to show you. I'm talking about Buddhism, Hinduism, the 5 major Buddhist sutras. I've done a lot in my works and documentaries on our chats about what I've looked at to get to where I've got to, and finding Blavatsky, rediscovering Rudolf Steiner, finding some canons before the ecclesiastical canons, the canons of Tibet. The Tibetan canon is divided into 2 parts called the Kanga and the Tenga. And I've gone in, I'm not going to read all of this now, but it's in with this forum. I've talked about the Japanese Shinto, all right, and the Buddhist sutras. So I've done a lot of research and discovery to get to where I've got to privately. And I don't mind sharing this now as a little bit of an excerpt from this particular international True Law Forum, as a sub forum of International Law Forum. And look, going into the Eastern philosophy, Asian religion, and the scholars of the religion there, in India, Sanskrit. You get the idea, all right? And the true law as such, when we talk in SPLS Pro of law, what law do you speak of? There are tens of, not hundreds of laws that we can speak of. When you speak of law, you need to specify, when you say law, what area of law, what type of law, what jurisdiction of law you speak of, because it's not just so ambiguous as to just say law. So you see my effort, what I've put into here. This is one of the biggest words I've ever seen in my life. I don't know how many characters it has, but it nearly takes up the full page as one word. Interesting for a word porn fan such as myself and you lot, I dare say. Scrolling down, hopefully there's a picture. I want you to tell me. This is a Buddhist temple coming up, and I want you to tell me, what does that remind you of? It's a temple of Wat Phra or Pra Dhammayaka. Wat Pra Dhammayaka. WAT PHRA DHAMMAKAYA. It's a temple, Buddhist temple. There's an image there displayed on the screen. First thoughts, does it look like a hat? It's a lady might
Circus
wear?
tent.
Does it look like something that you might see in the sky, flying around like an UFO? To me, I thought, modelled it on a lady's hat or a UFO. That temple there, Buddhist temple, that interested me. So I'm going about certain topics that I've gone on about, and we talk about intentions and three certainties, the certainty of intention. I wanted the initiates that were reading in this forum to consider the nekkhamma, a Pali word generally translated as renunciation or the pleasure of renunciation, while also conveying more specifically giving up the world and leading a holy life, or freedom from lust, craving, and desires. I was researching nirvana, and that's not the nirvana that we all know and come to love in the musical industry and Kurtz, but nirvana in Buddhism and the Eightfold Path, the right intention, intentions, conscionable actions, and so forth. So as I say, all things, law doesn't have to be boring, and just because we look at lawful remedies to legal situations and we specialize in equity and trust, we like to splinter off, as you'll see at the beginning of this video with the speech that I did there, into other relevant, more wholesome, beneficial areas other than Catholicism, ecclesiastical and inner city London Templars of the Knights Order. And we go into the Eastern philosophy, which, as I've shown you with my books and publications, and that it's a pure pleasure and delight to go into. What?
Interesting. I was looking at the etymology of holy the other day. Again, in my deep dive of Matthew, the Gospel according to Matthew, holy, consecrated, sacred, godly, ecclesiastical, whole and uninjured. There you go. Whole and uninjured. So I can't be contaminated because I have to be whole and uninjured. Whole or intact, cannot be transgressed or violated.
You've got WHOLE and then HOLY, holy. And then you've got what Anders brought to us. If you watched that series called the Bok Saga, you've got the peephole of the whole E-land, and that is just fantastic. If you watch that, if you can search YouTube and look for, is it BOCK Saga, SAGA? And then you find their interpretation of the whole E-land, and they say that Jerusalem is far from ever being the whole E-land. And the Helsinki, hell freezeth over and stuff. And you've heard maybe when hell freezes over saying, well, then, up north that way, Nordic lands, etc. Helsinki, incredible. There's no evidence. It's a story, but it's just one of those splinter stories that you either love or hate. And I loved it. Thank you, Anders, for that.
Yeah, I've not finished watching it yet. I've watched part of it. It was really interesting. It's like the true North Pole, isn't it? The true North. And actually, if you look back at the whole ancient Sumerian lineage story and the potential war, so Michael Starian has done a lot of documentaries on this, the potential war, because the race that was created by the Sumerians were very advanced. They made them too clever. They realized they were slaves and left, which is when they set up Lemuria. And then, so they made Mark II of us and dumbed us down. So then the Lemurians saved Mark II. They're like, you're slaves. And apparently that's the Garden of Eden story, the whole tempting of Adam, tempting of Eve, Eve being a race, not just a woman. And anyway, so then there was a big war, which literally caused the whole earth to shift off of its axis, because the technology that they had blew everything up. And there's, in India, there are remains, fossilized, crystallized remains that are radioactive, that are frozen in position as if there was like a nuclear blast. So there is like evidential proof of that type of incident happening, apparently. So yeah, interesting. So that could be that actually was true north, and then when the world got shifted off his axis because of the big war between the Sumerians and whoever they made. If that's true, I don't know, but it's interesting. But it also says here with holy, stronger and more absolute than any word or cognate meaning, that which is sacred may derive its sanction from man. That which is holy has its sanctity directly from God, or as connected with him or her, might I add. Hence, we speak of the Holy Bible and the sacred writings of the Hindus. He who is holy is absolutely or essentially free from sin.
There is another interesting history too, and that is about Doggerland. And that was the land area between UK, Denmark, and Holland, maybe up to Norway too. And I actually believe that could be Antarctic, because that's a really, no, not Antarctic, Atlantis. So if you read about the Doggerland, that's really interesting, because that shows how the people been moving, and how the Scandinavians was coming to UK or England for the first times, you know. So that's really interesting reading. I can recommend that.
Yeah, what is that, Anders? What is it, a book? What's it called?
Doggerland.
Ah, interesting.
It is really interesting, and the thing is that you can't read in it about it in schools or anything, but there is loads of information about it from professors, archaeologists, and everything.
Dog. I'm interested in the dog stars, the two dogs, the cannabis, two cannabis, dog star, Dogon, dog, God backwards, dog, Doggerland, so the land of dog soldiers. Stop dogging me about this. Going out dogging in itself is a thing. Dog,
Ew.
man's best friend. So yeah, that would be a topic that I know I have limited information on, but I would be interested maybe on another chat looking into that. There's it's somewhere in the sea, southern North Sea. I remember watching a documentary on it.
Yes.
Somewhere to do with the east coast of Britain.
Yes.
Netherlands, Germany, Jutland.
Shetland Island too, you know. It is all this.
Can you put a link in, Anders, please?
Yeah, if you can't Google it, I can put in a link for you.
This
Can you spell it? Can you spell it and I'll Google it?
Dogger land. Doggerland.
Somebody was saying about
Thank you.
the ice caps and where they used to. When we was talking about the Box Saga, somebody on the Flat Earth realm was saying to me that over time the magnetic pole shifts. Obviously, the landmass ice caps shift, and the Piri-Reis map and things come into play. The tectonic plate shift in the polar ice, continental, wherever the glacial ice is, it swaps continents due to the alleged, I'm sorry people, that because it was an argument about flat earth and it being a round ball, and polar ice caps moving on a globe, and flat earthers have times to argue about certain academic qualities of history in itself, and the flood, the great flood, it all comes into play, and intellectual, honourable argumentation, which is fun. It's a nice escape, but it's not the focal point of why we're here. But when we was talking about this, and that came up briefly, they were saying that everything with land in it is where the ice used to be. Poland, England, and they were saying that countries are named, and this was years ago, and I was heavily under the influence of cannabis at the time. It was very, very late at night, and that's all I can say. But they were saying that the continents with land in their name were previously frozen, and we were going into antiquitech technology of antiquities, such as the what was that now? The Antikythera machine and other such things, and arguments for and to. And it was with Sister Karen, I think, from Sun and Moon, and some of the video content she'd put up about Tartaria and such things as it. It was very interesting. I briefly looked at it, and it was too much. Oh, well, I'll leave that to another time, and I never did get back onto it. Or Tartaria, or flat Earth. I never did find out if it's round or flat. And you know what? I'm quite happy not knowing.
Antikythera mechanism is amazing. I've looked at that.
Yeah.
Was it Crete, found off of Crete, wasn't it? It's like about
Antikythera, yeah.
Yeah, the Antikythera mechanism.
It's named after where it was found, I believe. Yeah,
between Crete and somewhere else.
It is. They've made Lego models of it. They've allegedly remade it so it works now 100%. And if you watch documentaries on that, it is mind blowing. It's like, so, yes, the Smithsonians and academics. What do you say about this and that? And it's too many things that they've been caught out with their pants down, and liar, pants on fire. One good thing about the internet and the videos that we find on YouTube and other platforms that just be better than what you could ever wish to find on TV or streaming sites that you pay for. The work that goes into some of these documentaries, channels and publications is phenomenal, and we pay homage to those that continue to put, content genuine, that's just mind-blowing like that, and then to go and try and rebuild it from scratch and painstakingly. Yeah. But yes, the forklift does call, Jerry, and it's been fun. We will go back to regular casts and chats, and getting the admins in and talking of topics which are more relevant. Please, if you're on the live now, make sure you watch the beginning and listen to my 20-minute feel-good factor, self-esteem booster from Davey. And I want to say thank you, Claire, and thank you, Anders. And don't forget to go and check out the TNEM, and we will promote that further, Anders, and continue to do so for the Swedish sovereigns, for SPLS Pro Sweden, and your own movement there. And again, Claire, brilliant, the voiceover.
Thank you. Yeah.
Genius, all of you. It's inspiring and heartwarming, to say the least. So.
Yeah. We are building our future now. So that's what's happening.
Exciting times ahead.
Yeah.
No, it's been really lovely. Thanks, David, for the invite, and hi to everyone in the chat that I've not got around to sort of actually messaging or saying hello to. I'm just having a quick read through before we go.
Yeah. Scroll down to here.
Jesus, I am Lindsay, Cherie, bonjour, mon ami, one big pond.
Jerry,
high vibing, hug thunking, spiritual badass manifestation gangster comes close. Makes me want to say boss walk, tank fly, boss walk. Jam nitty gritty.
Gritty.
Listen to the
This
boys
is the
from
boy from the big
Bad
bad
City.
city. This is Jam Hot.
Good Lord, it's
This
been
is Jam Hot.
been some years since I couldn't even see the struggle then. I knew it, but yeah, thanks, Claire. It's been some years since I said tank fly,
No,
boss.
I was about 13, 14, I think, when that was out. Blimey. Show me age now.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for tonight, everybody.
Yeah, lovely seeing you, Anders, David. Thank you.
Yeah, we keep in touch here.
Yeah, thank you. It's been blessed. And I'm catching up with emails. I'm still well behind, but I'm working through them. We have got a small gathering in Wimbledon for equity and trust that's going to hold about 30. When I say small and private, it is quite small and private and not exclusive, but limited capacity wise. But first come, first serve. And we will look after you all to further seminars this year in Rick Mansworth and one in Birmingham, and hopefully working our way up north to Scotland if possible. That'd be nice, but definitely Albert's got a venue somewhere, Rick Mansworth, and we've got a venue in Birmingham. So we will.
You're
look
going to
at
come
two-
down here, come down here to the West Country with us country bumpkin folks.
Ooh, why not? Yes, if you can find somewhere in the summertime or something, or any time, but in the summertime, if there's space, land, we can get some nights on a field or something. It'd be nice, yeah, under the stars. Or I'm a fan of buildings and seminars and prim and proper, but there's nothing quite like fires, food, good times, good people, stars, and that kind of vibe as well. So
Yep, I might have just the place actually of a awakened lady who owns land. Actually, she was in one of the calls one night because her land, the deeds, is not registered with the land registry, and the solicitors had it. Remember, she came on, Mandy. She got her deeds back. So yeah, she's got a little bit of land that she lives on. So that might be a possibility. I will speak to her.
let's do this then. To Grandpa and what do we call Claire? I can't remember now. CQ. What was it, Anders? We came up with. Can you remember that one?
Oh, that was Afid David and Sister Key. Sister Key.
It's the key.
To describe. I'm glad you've
Lovely.
enjoyed it. It's been a random chat. It started out as it meant to be, and we kept the thread loosely. So much love. Yes, and we'll see you soon. Bless up. Thank you all. And we'll end it here.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Night, night.
Thank you for your work, Anders and Claire, keeping things level, and we'll speak soon.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I'm finished in college now, so I'm a little bit more back. So I've been busy for the last 2 months. So it's nice. But yeah, night, night all.
Good
Bye-bye.
night. Hasta mañana.